The Last Dinosaur. The jungle was eerily quiet that morning. The mist clung low over the valley, curling around ancient trees as if guarding a secret too old for human memory. The villagers who lived at the edge of the great forest had always whispered about strange echoes at night, deep, thunderous calls that shook the earth like a storm. Most dismissed the tales as superstitions, legends handed down to keep children from wandering too far into the darkness. But one day, the earth itself seemed to prove them right. The ground trembled. Birds fled from the treetops in flocks. A rumble rolled through the mountains as though the past itself had awakened. And then, breaking through the curtain of fog, a massive figure emerged, a creature out of time, with scales that shimmered like wet stone and eyes that carried the weight of forgotten ages. It was a dinosaur. Not bones, not fossils, not the imagination of scientists, but alive, breathing, walking, the last of its kind. For millions of years, humans had believed the great reptiles of the past were gone forever, wiped from the earth by a cataclysm no one truly remembered. Yet here it stood, towering above the trees, each step shaking the soil, each breath a hiss of steam in the cold morning air. To the villagers, it was a monster. To the scientists who would soon come chasing the rumors, it was a miracle. To the dinosaur itself, it was simply survival, the endless struggle it had fought since the dawn of time. But this was no ordinary story of survival. This was the story of the last dinosaur, how it lived, how it was hunted, and how it carried within its ancient heart the memory of an entire lost world. At first, no one dared move. The colossal shadow stood at the edge of the valley, its head lifting slowly, as if tasting the wind. The dinosaur's nostrils flared, drawing in the sense of a world it no longer recognized, smoke from human fires, the iron tang of tools, the sharp sting of fuel. Its amber eyes scanned the open fields, and for a moment, it let out a low, mournful roar that echoed like thunder rolling across the mountains. The villagers, huddled together behind the wooden palisades of their settlement, froze in terror. Old Farhan, the village elder, was the first to whisper the words that would change everything. It is not a beast. It is a curse from the old world. Children clung to their mothers. The hunters gripped their spears, but did not dare step forward. How could a weapon of wood pierce the armor-like hide of a giant that had walked the earth long before men even learned fire? Yet not everyone saw it with fear. A boy named Aram, no more than 14, pressed his face against the wooden gate and watched with wide, shining eyes. Unlike the others, he felt no terror, only wonder. Where the others saw a monster, he saw a living story, something that belonged to the earth more than they ever could. He whispered to himself, "It's not a curse, it's a miracle." That night, as the dinosaur wandered into the valley and settled near the riverbank, the village was torn apart by debate. Some said it must be killed before it destroyed their homes and crops. Others argued it should be left alone, for no spear nor fire could truly stop a creature born of stone and thunder. The elder spoke of balance, that perhaps it was a test, a reminder from the earth itself. But word spreads faster than silence. By the third day, the rumors had reached beyond the village. A traveling merchant carried the tale to the nearest city. A beast, larger than any elephant, with teeth like swords, walks in the forest of mist. Within a week, the story reached the ears of scientists, hunters, and opportunists alike. Some came with notebooks, others with rifles. The last dinosaur had stepped not only into the lives of the villagers, but into the greedy, curious eyes of the modern world. The dinosaur itself, unaware of the storm it had unleashed, continued its slow search for food and water. It had survived countless ages alone, hunted by none, haunted by memory. Yet now, for the first time in its ancient life, it would face creatures unlike any it had known, humans. Fragile, small, yet more dangerous than any predator that had walked the earth before. The last dinosaur story had begun, and it would not be written in silence. The first to arrive were not scientists, but hunters. They came in the dead of night, slipping through the fog like shadows, carrying rifles wrapped in cloth to hide their gleam. These were men who believed in trophies, in gold for proof, in the thrill of chasing something no other man could claim. Their leader, a scarred man named Darius, had hunted lions in Africa and bears in Siberia, but even he had never dreamed of stalking a creature that had outlived empires. The villagers begged them to leave the beast alone. Elder Farhan warned them, "This is no game. This creature is not yours to take. It belongs to the earth, and the earth will not forgive your greed." But Darius only laughed, his teeth flashing in the firelight. "Old man, history belongs to those brave enough to claim it. Imagine the fortune, the fame. A beast like this, stuffed, mounted, displayed in the great cities of the world. You will thank us when the danger is gone." That night, the hunters crept through the valley toward the river where the dinosaur slept. Its body rose and fell like a mountain breathing. The ground seemed to hum with its life. But as they raised their rifles, ready to fire, the air shifted. The dinosaur's eye opened, glowing amber in the moonlight. With a roar that shook the heavens, it rose to its full height. The hunters froze, their courage faltering before the living shadow of prehistory. The dinosaur charged. Trees splintered under its weight, the ground cracked, and the river boiled with waves as it thundered forward. The men fired blindly, their bullets sparking against its scales like rain against stone. One was crushed beneath its tail, another hurled into the river. Darius barely escaped, stumbling back toward the village, his rifle broken and his pride shattered. By morning, the valley was silent again, save for the cries of the wounded. The villagers buried the dead hunters at the edge of the forest, but the message was clear. This creature was not prey. It was survival itself, a reminder of a time when humans were nothing more than shadows on the food chain. But the hunters' failure only fueled the world's obsession. News reached the cities faster than ever. A living dinosaur exists. Scientists dismissed it as madness, yet universities, museums, and governments sent expeditions. Helicopters buzzed over the forest, trucks rumbled through the dirt roads, and men with cameras and cages arrived in droves. For the boy Aram, wonder still burned in his heart. He sneaked away each day to watch the dinosaur from a distance, sketching its movements in the dirt, memorizing its roars, feeling the ground tremble with each step. He sensed what no one else did, that the dinosaur was not just fighting for its life. It was fighting for its memory, for a world already gone. And deep within the valley, the dinosaur too began to sense the change. It had known predators, storms, even starvation. But never before had it faced an enemy that hunted not out of hunger, but out of ambition. Humanity had come, and it would not stop. When the scientists arrived, they came not with rifles but with notebooks, cameras, and cages. Their trucks rolled into the village like an invading army, engines coughing smoke that hung heavy over the huts. The villagers gathered to watch, uneasy, while Aram's eyes gleamed with curiosity. Dr. Helena Strauss, a paleontologist from Europe, stepped out first. Her boots sank into the mud as she adjusted her glasses, staring at the mist-shrouded valley. For decades she had studied fossils, bones locked in stone, piecing together the story of life long vanished. But now, if the rumors were true, she would stand face to face with the impossible, a creature that had survived time itself. "Do you understand what this means?" she whispered to her colleagues. "If it truly lives, then extinction is not final. The world is far stranger than we have ever dared to imagine." Not all shared her awe. Beside her stood Richard Hale, a wealthy investor who had funded much of the expedition. Unlike Helena, his eyes were not on discovery, but on profit. He imagined the dinosaur chained, paraded before crowds, or perhaps dissected for secrets worth fortunes in medicine, weapons, or technology. Where she saw history, he saw ownership. The village elder approached cautiously. "This creature is not yours to take," Farhan warned. "It does not belong to your cities or your cages. It belongs to the earth." Helena bowed her head respectfully. "We do not wish to harm it. We only wish to study it, to learn from it. The world must see this miracle." But Hale sneered. "The world will see it, old man, but not as you think. Imagine the spectacle, the power. One dinosaur can change everything." The debate split even the scientists themselves. Some argued it must be preserved in the wild, protected from hunters and greed. Others insisted that capturing it was the only way to ensure its survival. After all, what chance could one dinosaur have against the growing armies of men with guns? Meanwhile, the dinosaur itself remained near the river, unaware of the arguments circling its fate. It hunted fish, drank deeply, and sometimes raised its head to the mountains, as though searching for companions that no longer existed. At night, its roar carried over the forest, a lonely cry that made even the bravest villagers tremble in their beds. Aram, unable to resist, approached Helena one evening. He showed her the sketches he had made of the dinosaur, drawings so detailed they captured the sway of its tail, the glint in its eyes, the scars along its back. Helena's breath caught. "You've been watching it?" she asked. "Yes," Aram said proudly. "It's not a monster. It's the last memory of the world before ours. You must protect it." Helena placed a hand on his shoulder. "I will try. But remember, Aram, men like Hale are not moved by wonder. They are moved by power. And power is the most dangerous hunger of all." As the campfires burned that night, the decision loomed: capture the dinosaur for study, leave it free and unguarded, or kill it before others could claim it. And while humans argued, the dinosaur slept, dreaming of a world where it was not alone. But dawn was coming, and with it, the storm. The morning came with the sound of machines. Trucks groaned into the valley, carrying steel nets, tranquilizer guns, and heavy chains. The air was thick with diesel smoke, unnatural against the clean breath of the forest. Birds fled from the noise, monkeys screeched from the treetops, and even the river seemed restless. The last dinosaur, sensing disturbance, raised its head and let out a low, warning growl. Helena argued desperately with Hale and the others. "You cannot simply chain it like an animal in a circus," she cried. "This creature has survived millions of years. It is not ours to bind. It is ours to respect, to protect." But Hale silenced her with a cold smile. "Protection does not feed nations, Doctor. Knowledge locked in the jungle is wasted. We must bring it to the world." The plan was simple, at least in the minds of the hunters and scientists who had chosen Hale's side. They would surround the dinosaur at the river, fire tranquilizer darts until it fell, then drag its body onto trucks reinforced with steel cages. They told themselves it was humane, scientific, necessary. But beneath their words lay greed. That night, they struck. Floodlights pierced the darkness as men advanced, rifles loaded with darts, nets coiled in their hands. The dinosaur, startled awake, rose with a roar that shook the earth. Its tail swept across the clearing, shattering trees and sending men flying like ragdolls. The ground trembled beneath its massive feet as it tried to flee, but darts pierced its hide, one after another, tiny stings against its armor. Aram, hiding near the tree line, screamed, "Stop! You're hurting it!" But his voice was drowned out by gunfire, shouts, and the thunder of the dinosaur's struggle. The creature bellowed in pain and fury, snapping nets like cobwebs, toppling trucks with its weight. A helicopter swooped overhead, spotlights blinding it as more darts rained down. The dinosaur staggered, its breath heavy, its legs trembling. For a moment, it seemed the impossible had happened. The last dinosaur fell to one knee, its massive body swaying, its eyes clouding with exhaustion. Men cheered, rushing forward with chains. Hale raised his fist in triumph. But the earth itself seemed unwilling to let history end this way. With a final, thunderous roar, the dinosaur surged to its feet, breaking free of the nets, snapping chains like twigs. Its tail whipped across the ground, crushing equipment, smashing vehicles. The helicopter spun out of control, spiraling away into the trees with a fiery crash. Panic erupted. Men scattered in every direction as the beast stormed through the camp, its massive body glowing in the firelight of burning machines. For every dart in its skin, it answered with a roar that seemed to tear the night apart. Aram stood frozen, tears in his eyes, not from fear, but from the unbearable sight of a miracle being hunted. He whispered into the chaos, though no one could hear. Run, please, just run. Don't let them take you. The dinosaur did run, thundering through the jungle, leaving behind a trail of shattered metal, broken nets, and frightened men. By dawn, the valley was a ruin. Helena stood among the wreckage, shaken but alive. Her voice trembled as she turned to Hale. Do you see now? You cannot cage the past. It will destroy itself before it bows to us. But Hale's eyes burned with fury, not defeat. No, Doctor. This was only the first attempt. Next time, we come prepared. And next time, the beast will be mine. The jungle was silent again, but it was no longer the same silence. It was heavier, darker, filled with the knowledge that the last dinosaur had been marked, not just as a wonder, but as a prize. And Aram knew in his heart, the war for the last dinosaur had just begun. The jungle lay scarred from the battle. Smoke rose from the ruins of trucks and shattered cages, the stench of fuel seeping into the river. But the dinosaur had vanished into the depths of the forest, leaving only broken trees and the echo of its roar. In the village, fear mingled with awe. Some believed the beast brought disaster, others that it was a spirit of the earth fighting back against human greed. But for Aram, there was no doubt. It was alive, wounded, and alone. And if no one protected it, Hale would return with greater force. That evening, Aram slipped away with nothing but a small pack of food and a lantern. He followed the trail of destruction deep into the jungle. Broken branches marked the dinosaur's passage, massive footprints filled with rainwater, and once, a smear of blood along the bark of a tree. His heart tightened at the sight. After hours of searching, he found it. The dinosaur lay in a clearing, its vast body trembling, its breath ragged. Darts still protruded from its hide, its wounds glowing faintly in the moonlight. Yet, even weakened, it was a mountain of life, its eye flickering open as Aram approached. He froze, his small frame dwarfed by the creature's enormity. One wrong step, and he could be crushed. But instead of fear, he whispered softly, "I won't hurt you. I came to help." The dinosaur's golden eye fixed on him. For a moment, time itself seemed to pause. Then, as if recognizing something in the boy's voice, the creature lowered its head with a groan. Hands trembling, Aram climbed onto a fallen log and reached out. He plucked one of the darts from the thick scales, then another, wincing each time the dinosaur flinched. It was slow work, but the boy did not stop. When at last the last dart fell to the ground, the dinosaur let out a long, weary breath, like a sigh of relief carried across ages. From that night onward, Aram became the dinosaur's shadow. Each day he brought food, fish from the river, fruits, anything he could gather. He spoke to it in whispers, telling stories of his village, of stars, of how men had forgotten the old world. And though the dinosaur could not answer, its low rumbling growls felt like a reply, as though it understood. But while Aram formed this fragile bond, Hale was not idle. Back in the city, he rallied more men, more weapons, and even convinced the government to fund his mission under the guise of scientific preservation. Helicopters, armored vehicles, stronger nets, and tranquilizers powerful enough to bring down an army of elephants were prepared. Hale's obsession grew like fire. "The beast slipped through my hands once," he told his men. "It will not happen again. This time, we bring it down alive, or not at all." Helena, horrified by his plans, tried to stop him. She spoke at conferences, wrote letters, begged officials to halt the operation. "You will not save the creature," she warned. "You will destroy it, and in destroying it, you destroy the last true link to the Earth's past." But her voice was drowned in politics and profit. Meanwhile, Aram began to realize the danger closing in. At night, he saw helicopters sweeping the skies with searchlights. During the day, the distant rumble of engines echoed through the forest. The hunters were coming again, stronger than before. He stood before the dinosaur one evening, his small hand pressed against the warm scales. "They'll come for you again," he whispered. "But this time, you won't be alone. I'll fight for you." The dinosaur raised its head and let out a low, resonant cry that rolled through the valley. It sounded like an oath, a promise across two worlds, ancient beast and modern boy, bound together against the storm. And far beyond the forest, Hale's army was already on the move. The greatest hunt in history was about to begin. The jungle awoke to thunder, not from the skies, but from engines. Armored trucks rolled down dirt paths, flattening trees in their path. Helicopters roared overhead, their searchlights sweeping the forest like artificial suns. Soldiers, hunters, and scientists marched together, armed with weapons designed to take down a living fortress. The villagers watched from a distance, horror written on their faces. Elder Farhan shook his head, his voice heavy with sorrow. Man has declared war against the earth itself. At the heart of the column rode Richard Hale, his eyes gleaming with determination. He raised a loudspeaker and announced to his men, "This is no mere hunt. This is history. Today, we claim what belongs to us. The beast will be ours, or it will die." Meanwhile, deep within the forest, Aram sat beside the dinosaur, sensing the vibrations in the ground as the army advanced. The creature stirred uneasily, its golden eyes glowing in the shadows. Aram clenched his fists, fear and anger boiling inside him. "They're coming for you," he whispered. "But I won't let them win." He ran back toward the village and pleaded with the people to help. Some shook their heads in fear, unwilling to challenge Hale's power. But a few, inspired by Aram's courage, gathered tools, drums, and fire. They were not warriors, but they understood that if the last dinosaur fell, so too would their bond with the forest. By midday, the hunters reached the valley. Nets were launched from trucks, tranquilizer cannons fired, and drones buzzed through the air, tracking the dinosaur's every movement. The jungle exploded in chaos. The dinosaur roared, a sound so deep it rattled the bones of every man within miles. It crashed through the first wave of nets, its tail sending vehicles flying, its claws tearing down trees that blocked its escape. Bullets and darts rained down, some piercing its hide, others bouncing harmlessly from its scales. Helicopters swarmed above like vultures, dropping cables in an attempt to bind its limbs. The beast reared onto its hind legs, snapping one from the sky with a bite that ended in fire and smoke. Men screamed, scattering as the forest shook beneath the dinosaur's fury. Aram raced into the chaos, his small body darting between soldiers. He shouted, waved his arms, did everything to draw their attention away from the creature. When he saw a team of hunters aiming a massive cannon at the dinosaur's chest, he hurled a rock that struck the trigger hand of the gunner. The shot fired harmlessly into the ground, buying the creature precious seconds. "Aram!" Helena's voice rang out. She had come with the expedition but now broke from Hale's men, sprinting to shield the boy. "You'll be killed." "I don't care," Aram cried, tears streaming down his face. "They'll destroy it. They can't take the last of its kind." Helena's heart pounded. She turned, placing herself between the soldiers and the beast. "Listen to me," she shouted at the men. "If you kill it, you kill the last living chapter of the Earth's history. Do you want to be remembered as savages who ended a miracle?" But Hale's voice boomed over the loudspeakers. "Don't listen to her. Take it down. This is our moment." The hunters pressed forward. Rockets fired. Nets fell. Explosions cracked the air. The dinosaur fought with every ounce of strength left in its ancient body, but the onslaught was relentless. For every truck it crushed, two more advanced. For every soldier it scattered, more came from the shadows. At last, with a cry that seemed to tear the sky in half, the dinosaur fell to one knee. Blood streaked its scales, tranquilizers thick in its veins. Its massive head bowed, exhaustion overwhelming it. Aram ran forward, throwing himself against its side as though his small weight could shield it from the world.
"No.
You can't have it," he screamed. "It belongs to the earth, not you." For a heartbeat, silence fell. The boy's cry echoed through the valley, louder than the machines, more powerful than Hale's orders. Even some soldiers hesitated, their weapons lowering as they saw not a monster, but a boy protecting his friend. But Hale did not falter. His eyes blazed with greed, his voice cold as steel. "Chain it. Now." The fate of the last dinosaur hung on a knife's edge. The valley shook with tension. Soldiers tightened their grips on chains, hunters raised tranquilizers, and Hale's eyes burned with hunger for victory. The dinosaur knelt in exhaustion, its breath ragged, its golden eyes dim with pain. And there, pressed against its massive side, stood Aram, small, fragile, yet unyielding. "Move the boy," Hale shouted, furious. "He's nothing. The beast is all that matters." But the soldiers hesitated. Some looked at the boy, others at the wounded giant beside him. For a moment, humanity's greed wavered in the face of innocence. Helena stepped forward, her voice cutting through the noise. "Look at what you're doing. This is no monster. It is the last survivor of a world older than ours. If we destroy it, we destroy the memory of the Earth itself. Do you want your children to inherit a world where wonder is caged or gone forever?" Her words struck like arrows. Even the villagers, who had gathered at the edges of the chaos, began to chant with drums and fire, their voices rising in defiance. "Let it live. Let it live." But Hale's face twisted with rage. He raised his rifle himself, aiming at the dinosaur's heart. "If I can't have it, no one will." Time seemed to freeze. Aram saw the glint of the gun, the cruel determination in Hale's eyes. Without thinking, he threw himself in front of the dinosaur's chest, arms wide, shouting, "No!" The shot rang out, but it never struck the boy. With a roar that shattered the valley, the dinosaur surged upward one last time. Its massive tail swept across the clearing, striking Hale with the force of a storm. The man's body flew through the air, crashing into the wreckage of his own machines. The gun clattered uselessly to the ground. The dinosaur reared back, its strength ignited by a primal fury. Chains snapped, nets tore, and the earth itself seemed to rise in its defense. Trucks overturned, helicopters fled, soldiers dropped their weapons and scattered in panic. Flames consumed the machines, lighting the valley like dawn. At the center of it all, the last dinosaur stood, scarred, bleeding, but unbroken. Aram pressed his hand to its scales, tears streaming down his face. "You're free," he whispered. "You're free." The creature lowered its massive head until its golden eye met his. In that gaze, Aram saw the weight of ages. Jungles long gone, skies filled with winged giants, seas ruled by leviathans, worlds buried beneath time. He saw loneliness, yes, but also resilience, the will to endure against all odds. Then, with a final earth-shaking roar, the dinosaur turned and thundered into the depths of the jungle. Trees swallowed its form, and soon only the echo of its steps remained. It was gone, back into the wild, where no man could chain it. Silence fell over the valley. The hunters were scattered, their leader defeated, their machines broken. The villagers sang softly, voices rising like prayer. Helena placed a hand on Aram's shoulder, her eyes shining with both sorrow and hope. "You saved it," she said. Aram shook his head, still staring into the forest. "No," he whispered. "It saved itself. I just reminded it that it wasn't alone." In the days that followed, Hale's men abandoned their mission, shamed and broken. Helena returned to her work, vowing to tell the world not of a captured prize, but of a miracle that still roamed free. And Aram, he never stopped visiting the edge of the jungle, waiting, listening, hoping to hear again the roar that had once shaken the skies. Sometimes, on quiet nights, the sound would come, a distant echo rolling through the mountains. And when it did, Aram smiled, knowing the last dinosaur still walked the earth, not as a trophy, not as a prisoner, but as a guardian of memory. The world might never see it again, but it lived. And that was enough. The last dinosaur was not gone. It was free.